Okay, before you guys go ahead and sit down, please turn in your outline of chapter 18 that was provided for you to take notes. Just go ahead and set it in the basket right there. And then as you're sitting down, I want you to start thinking about what you need to know if you are traveling to London based on currency, exchange rate, and what kind of economy they have. And then once you're all sitting, we'll go over and I can have you answer some questions about that, okay? Sound good? Okay, now that you're all sitting, what is important about knowing the exchange rate for going to London if you are coming from the US and taking a trip to London? Yes, you in the front, right here, go ahead. Yes, that's correct. So if you're going to London, you need to know the exchange rate so you know how much your US dollars are worth in the London currency. Does anybody know what the currency for London is, which is the UK, which is the United Kingdoms? Yeah, go ahead and answer. Yes, that's correct. So the currency rate for London is pounds sterling, which, does anybody know what that currency rate, exchange rate is for us from the pounds to our US dollars? Oh, you're so close. So actually, 1 pound sterling equals $1.29 in the US. So our money is technically worth more in how much you can buy of one thing or amount of like a substance that you were trying to buy. And then does anybody know what kind of market they have? Perfect. They have, economy that they have. Does anybody know what kind of economy? Based on the chapter that you read and learning about the different types of economy. Okay, perfect. They have a market economy oriented for the most part, which means their decisions come mostly from their consumers and suppliers, because they are looking to see what people are buying, what products, and mostly focused on the supply and demand, because their ideas are not regulated by the government, so they get to make those decisions. So I want you to go ahead, and as I'm writing on the board, I would like you to write in your notes the currency for London and what exchange rate it is and the economy, okay? So as I'm writing, go ahead and write in your notes that the currency equals pound sterling. So that's just what theirs is called. Just like ours is called dollars, theirs is called pound sterling. So it's just giving it a name so then everyone knows what kind of money they have. And then exchange rate is what your money is worth when you go to a different country or just to a different exchange. Like if you're trading one product for another. If that product, say, was a car and you trade it for a house, that's your exchange rate, because a house is normally more than a car, because say your car has been used but your house is brand new, so the car is worth less than the house. You're exchanging that, so that just shows that one is a little bit more than the other. So the exchange rate to go to London is 1 pound sterling equals 1.29 US dollars. So right now, if you went to London, your the amount of money you have is worth more than the pound. So then you could technically spend more for less money there. Okay, and then the economy is market-based, which means it makes more decisions regarding investments, production and distribution, which is focused more on customers and suppliers, on how they can get more out of their product based on who they're selling to and who are their suppliers. So market-based is more regulated on competition for the consumers and the suppliers, because the more competition they have, the more likely that one business, they'll be pretty competitive, so consumers are willing to only buy for a certain amount. Besides like medicine, normally people are more likely to buy that even if it's higher. Houses are normally pretty high no matter what. So there's certain things that are kind of like not considered in the market as well, but like just shoes, like a lot of people, if Nikes are too expensive, they'll go and buy maybe Adidas, and that competition creates going back and forth between consumers and then suppliers as well, because if they're getting more supplies that are more expensive, of course they have to make a profit. And if they're not able to make a profit because they're selling it too low because it costs too much, then they also have competition on where they want to get their supplies. So, does that make sense to everyone? Is there any questions before we go ahead and open our notebooks and fill out the section as we are adding on exchange rate, economies, and currency? Those are 3 topics for today, as you can tell in our introduction when we were talking about how to go to London and what you need to know about their economy before you head over. No questions? Okay, so pull out your notebooks, and as I hand out your outline, go ahead and be ready to be able to glue it in your notebook, so that way when you are done with the class, you can glue it in when you have free time, so that way you can have it in your notebook and no one loses their outline. And I'll give you time at the end of class to do that, but right now I just want you to follow in the directions as I'm giving you information, okay? So like I was saying earlier, we're talking about exchange rates. So anybody know what an exchange rate is? So exchange rates. Anybody want to take a guess on what an exchange rate is based on the chapter that we just read? Yes, go ahead. That's correct. So exchange rate is the currency from where you are going, like so where you are, and exchanging it or changing it to another currency. So it's really just taking, so say you have $1 and you want to take it to London. So your $1 in the US would be more than $1 in London, because £1 sterling in London is $1.29 in the US dollars. So that makes a difference. So currency rate is the value of one currency for the purpose of conversion to another. So you're just taking one and changing it to another, just based on the rules of what currency means. Does that make sense? Okay. Now that we have currency down, does anybody know what exchange rate down, does anybody know what real exchange rate means? Does anyone want to take a guess? It's okay if you don't get it right. This one's more of a tricky one than just currency rate, exchange rate, because it's a little more challenging. Nobody? Okay, I'll go ahead and talk about it. So, your real exchange rate. So, real exchange rate, just go ahead and keep going with the outline, and it will have all the titles, and you'll just need to add definitions or information as we go and discuss, and as I write on the board, go ahead and bullet where I've outlined it for you. So, real exchange rate is purchasing power of a currency relative to another at current exchange rate and prices. So, real exchange rate gives you a little more power than this regular exchange rate, because you are able to purchase it and then exchange it at the current rate. so that it will give you a little more ability to get the exchange rate you want. So we're going to go ahead and say purchasing power of a currency relative to another at current exchange rates and prices. Okay? So now that we have a real exchange rate, does anybody still not totally fully understand real exchange rate and then just exchange rate in general? So I don't want to go too fast. I want to keep everybody on the same track so nobody is confused when we first get to our assignment. Okay? We're good? Perfect. Now we're going to talk about minimal exchange rate. Does anybody know what that means? Okay, so it is the amount of money you can get for one. So say I go and I have $5 and I go to London. Okay, so I have $5 in my basket and I'm going to the counter and can I please exchange this $5 US dollars into pound sterlings? Then whatever the exchange rate is for that, so it's for pounds, it is 1 pound equals $1.29. So $1.29. You have $5 here, okay? And you're 1.29 in $5, and then you take it over and you switch that to pounds. So it's like, if you had $100, how many pounds could you get out? And so it's just saying, with this much money you're trying to exchange, how much will you be able to get from that other? So if you're going back from London and you still have money, but you want to turn it into US dollars, you'd be like, can I exchange this $100 that I have left, and how much can I get back? Well, I guess I have 100 pounds of sterling left. How much can I get back? So, nominal exchange rate is the amount of currency you can receive in exchange for another currency. So currency, and then currency is just the money you have. So currency equals money. So no matter if it's pounds, dollars, euros, anything like that, it's just money. So it's the amount that you have is that is currency. So currency is the money you have. So does anybody have questions on what nominal exchange rate is? It's just the money that you are changing, the amount of money you can get from the dollars you have in a different country, or the pounds you have, just based on where you live. Okay, perfect. And then we are going to go into more details about what types of economies there are, because economies make a big difference on how the whole country functions in their supply and demand, which we've already talked about recently, and how they operate based on who's in charge. So there's 3 main types of economies, which we'll go over today. One is market economy, and you should have read a little bit about this in the chapter, but it's totally fine if you can't fully remember. But does anybody know what a market economy is? Yeah, go ahead. Yep. You're correct. So a market economy is based on the market, And so and it's based more on the competition in the market, because if one, just like I was talking about earlier, if one consumer is saying, I'm not going to buy this, and then there's a lot of people because it's too expensive, the market will end up making that company drop their price, which then changes the supply and demand, because the demand will go up if they drop the price, and so forth. Does that make sense? So a market economy is really focused on suppliers and consumers, because the consumers control more of the market and the economy, because if things are too expensive, then the consumer won't buy it, and that will shut down businesses, will then affect the economy. Okay? So now we are going to talk about command economy. Command economy. So anybody know about command economy? Okay. So command economy is the government makes the economic decisions for that country. So say the government puts up, this is the max price you can have for selling that. They have put a price ceiling on it. So price ceiling is saying you cannot charge any, like you can't have your customers, so say you are selling Nike shoes, okay? You have Nike shoes, and they were sold at $200, okay? They're really expensive, they're really nice Nikes, right? But then the government goes in and they say, actually, we want these shoes to be sold at $100. Then Nike has to decide if they can make this shoe sold at $100 and still be profitable. If not, they're probably going to take that shoe off the market and come up with another shoe or another mix of shoes that they can sell that can either be more profitable for them, or they can figure out how high that the government will write that ceiling. So if the government's like, nope, we want $100, and Nike can still make money and make a profit, then they'll probably be like, yes, our profits outweigh our costs, so we will still make this shoe. But if that ceiling is too low and they can't make a profit, then they'll probably be like, okay, we're not going to make this shoe anymore because it is too expensive for us to make, and we're not getting enough profit out of it. Our assets are not succeeding our costs. Okay, and so command economy is just run by the government. They put on regulations for businesses and just control the economy based on that. Now we have one more, which is mixed. Can anybody take a guess about what's mixed? Yep, that's correct. So mixed is the command economy and the market economy mixed together. So this means that the government has some regulations as well as the consumers and suppliers having regulations. For market, it's more of the consumers just because they decide to buy it or not, and that will affect the business more. But so mixed is command and market economy. And then it can be mixed in different ways. So it could be more command, where the government has more regulation, and more market, where the consumer and the customers, of course, have more more in charge of the decisions of the businesses and changing the economy based on that. And supply and demand is a big factor in the market, because if the consumers don't buy it, then the demand goes down. And now that we have covered all of the vocabulary and topics, we are going to have a fun little activity where you now will take individual whiteboards. They're under your chairs, just so that you guys all know. They're under your desks and your marker. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We'll say probably about 5 to 10 questions that you are going to you can hold up as soon as you answer the question and just be like, what types of economies there are, and you'll list all 3. Or I'll be like, what is currency, and you'll put money, right? So those are just a few examples. And then if you are not comfortable with lifting up your whiteboard, I will be walking around and you can just be like, hello, Mrs. Harris, can you check my whiteboard? And I can definitely do that as I walk around and just make sure that all of you are like understanding the material and are ready to move on to the next assignment once we are done with this one. So go ahead and grab now your whiteboards, markers, and erasers and sit quietly while I organize a few questions for you. Alrighty, so we are going to start off with question number 1, which is, what is exchange rate? And you may use your notes. I'll give you about 30 seconds to answer. Okay. Yep, you're correct. And I'm just going to let you know when you're correct and you can go ahead and set your whiteboard down. Yep. Go ahead and go back and look at your notes because you're a little bit off on one little thing, okay? Okay. Now that everyone has answered and it looks like most of you are correct, can I have one of you tell me what exchange rate is? Yes, that is correct. So if anyone didn't hear him, exchange rate is the value of one currency for the purpose of conversion to another. So again, it's just taking your money. You're like, oh, I want to go on a trip, but their exchange rate is different than ours. And their currency is different than ours, so I'm going to exchange it for that when I'm there and just figure out the amount you have for each. Okay? Good. Now we're going to go to our second question. And we are going to do, what is mixed? What's a mixed economy? Yes, that's correct. That's correct as well. You have one little part that you're missing, so go ahead and go back and just check your notes real fast to make sure that you wrote it down correctly. If not, make sure you have your notes out when I give you the correct answer or when someone says the correct answer, so that way you can get it right in your notes, because I don't want anyone having any wrong notes when we have to take an exam at the end of the unit. Okay? So, what is the mixed economy? Go ahead. Yes. It is where command and market economies are smushed together and they have some regulations from the government and some regulations from the consumers and the market. Okay? Now we're going to do, what is nominal exchange rate? Yep, go ahead. Everyone looks like you have it correct. So go ahead and shout it out. Okay, perfect. If anyone didn't hear him, it's the amount of currency you can receive in exchange for another currency. So it's the amount, like say again, I had $5 and I was like, hey, how much of the pounds can I get for my dollars? And then exchanging it that way and just getting that amount back. If that makes sense. Okay. For our last, we got 2 more. What is currency? This one should be an easy one. Yep, you guys all got it. It's money, right? So it's just the amount of money, well, not the amount of money, it's just the money you have. Okay, last one is going to be a trick question because we haven't fully talked about it yet, because we're going to discuss more tomorrow. What are the types of exchange rates? It was in the book, and it was in your outline, but I don't know if any of you guys remember, which of course you'll get your outline after I check them off to make sure you guys completed them to help you study for your exam. There's 3 of them. I'll give you a hint. You have 2 of them correct. Go ahead and try to think about what the last one was. You're good. You got them. And you have 1 of them correct. Okay, so So, what were they? Yes, that's correct. They are floating, fixed, and plagued floats. Okay? So now that we have completed our whiteboard discussion, I'm going to hand out an assignment that you will be working in groups to do, and you will be finding a country that you want to look up and find out their exchange rate, their currency, and their economy that they have, and also just any fun facts that you want to add because you'll be making it into a presentation. You'll need to have 6 slides, and then I want you to be in groups. Actually, we're going to make it a few more slides, and don't worry, I'll have this all written out on the board, and you'll have a rubric and a sheet of directions. But you're going to make 10 slides. I want you to be in groups of 4 to 5. You can pick your groups, but if your groups get out of hand, I will have you guys separate and pick groups after that. Each of you will take 2 slides, split it evenly, and I want you to figure out the currency, the exchange rate, and then economics, what is their economy, and then any fun facts about their economics or economy or the exchange rate, anything like that pertain to our lesson. And I will hand out those papers right now. And you guys can go ahead and get to work. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be looking over your outlines, so just feel free to come up to me at any time or just raise your hand and I'll come to you. Okay, thank you.